It's David coming to you today from my office in Dallas, Texas. For those of you who've had a class with me before, I still don't have anything on the walls, and probably won't. I leave town here in a couple days, and we'll be gone for 10 weeks up in the Pacific Northwest, doing some consulting projects, doing some things with my wife. You'll see some videos from different locations up in Seattle and around the state of Washington. So welcome. I hope you all had a very productive week one. Week one is always an interesting week in that you spend time just trying, for the new students, you spend time trying to navigate the system. I hope some of the tutorial things that I provided made that a little bit easier. I just want to reinforce that I'm always accessible, so if you have any challenges, problems, questions, those types of things, make sure that you reach out and chat with me. It's game day today, so this is Seattle 12th Man. For those of you who know me by now, you know I'm a big Seattle Seahawks fan, even after last year's Super Bowl debacle, handoff to Marshawn Lynch. And so I may shoot one of these videos. I'm going to the Seahawks game on October the 5th, which is Monday night against the Detroit Lions. I may take my iPad if I can remember and do the videos from CenturyLink Field, which might be kind of fun to do. But nevertheless, I'm just rambling right now. Discussion one. So I do these videos every week, and what I try and do is recap the prior week and then preview the upcoming week. So I want to talk just briefly about Lesson 1 and the content that we had in there. Lesson 1, Discussion 1, was simply an introduction. However, I want to make sure that you understand that introductions, whenever you're around other professional people, are really not throwaway exercises. This is a true story. In one of the classes I taught a few terms ago, one of a classmate gave an introduction of themselves, told them what they do, very detailed on what they do and what they're looking to do. And I had another classmate who contacted that person and said, "Hey, our company has an opening in a position that sounds like you'd be perfect for. And here's what it is. If you're interested in it, contact me. I'll get you in contact with the decision maker, the hiring manager." And that person did, and they got a job because of how they introduced themselves in a discussion board in a class of mine. True story. So don't treat those as throwaway opportunities. They're always a great opportunity to connect with people, to network with people. So that was Discussion 1. Discussion 2 talked about Amina's story, and we're going to be living with Amina's story for the next 7 weeks. And I asked you in this discussion question why you thought I picked that story. Whenever I was developing this course, I was working with Pearson Learning, and I'm working with these people who have PhDs in online curriculum design. I mean, really, really smart people. And I asked them at the time as we got started, I said, please go out and find me a story that my class and the students can live with for 7 weeks. I don't want to have a story a week, and the reason I don't want to have a story a week is because you tend to forget those. I want something that we can really dissect and that we can really dive in. Rather than being an inch deep and a mile wide, I'd much rather be a mile deep in something. You'll find that about my classes. Because I really, if you take away 2 or 3 key things from any course you take or any conference you go to, then you're really doing well. And what happens is people just get inundated with information and you don't remember anything. And so I much prefer that we go much deeper. So I asked the Pearson folks to find me a story. And they brought me 2 or 3, but when they brought me this one, it just really resonated with me. And it resonated with me for a couple reasons. Number one, there are some unique characters in here. There are many different characters who played a very important part in solving this problem of saving Amina's life, really. And so I looked at the different people in that story, starting from Kevin Gerard, who, by the way, about 2 terms ago, I actually had Kevin Gerard on campus in Charleston. He gave a presentation to my master's students who were in the course at that time, and it was fantastic. What a dynamic individual. From Kevin Gerard and what he had to do and his critical thinking style, compared to the doctor who was there, compared to Kevin's immediate supervisor, compared to Aunt Janet, compared to Deanna Dolan, compared to all the other people, if all of them had the same critical thinking style, perhaps, just perhaps, Amina's life wouldn't have been saved. But because there were many different thinking styles involved in that, we were able to put together, they were able to put together, the right team of the right people doing the right things, thinking the right way to be able to save her life. So that's why I picked that story out. And so we're going to be going over the next few weeks dissecting that story, and you'll see coming up in lesson 2 kind of our first steps in doing that. So my hope is that this story becomes meaningful to you. By the way, Kevin Gerard is a Citadel graduate. And then there's another story that goes along with this. They actually brought another kid here a year or so later after Amina, and they brought her. This was a boy. The next time they brought him to MUSC. So there's a Charleston connection to this story that goes much deeper than you'll find in the story. So that was discussion 2. Assignment 1 asks you to go to an outside source, a Talent Lens website, answer some questions, and then from that you were able to garner your critical thinking style. And I asked you to write a paper, and by the way, all papers, cover page, introduction section that states the purpose of what this paper is all about, body headings, conclusion, recaps your main points, and then references page on this. And so it asks you to recap those. And so you came out of this with some top 2 critical thinking styles. It may have been analytical, may have been insightful, may have been timely, may have been open-minded, and those types of things. But as I mentioned in last week's video, I operate under kind of a unique philosophy in higher education in that if all we do in higher education is just fill your head full of theory, facts, and all that stuff, but we don't teach you anything about you, again, I think we've failed. And so I hope going through that exercise causes you to look at things differently, to look at how you approach things differently, because your critical thinking style is not right or wrong, it's just you. And so I encourage you to use that perhaps on your teams at work, maybe on your committees at church. Give it to your spouse if you're married, and talk to them about that. Okay, and so we'll use that. We'll use that again. Okay, so that was really sort of the introduction, lesson 1. We really hit the meat of the course in lesson 2, and the discussion question. There are 2 this week. The first discussion question talks about the difference between strategic thinking and critical thinking. And this is a traditional compare and contrast type of situation. I'll put something in the announcements this week that really hopefully helps you approach comparing and contrasting 2 things, because too often people don't do a very good job of that. And when you're in business and you have a supervisor who says, okay, I've got 2 ideas, David, and I want you to go out and compare them and contrast them and bring back what you think is best. This exercise will help you be able to do that if you think a little bit deeper about that. So I'll put that in the announcements this week. So the difference between strategic thinking and critical thinking I'm asking you to address. You'll need to go to the CSU online library to find some external sources on that. I will tell you up front that having worked with traditional business people for 30 years in business, this is a really hard thing for them, because most of them, and I'm generalizing here, will default to strategic thinking over critical thinking, and there is a big difference. So it's going to be up to you to tell me and everyone else in the discussion group this week what you think the differences are. In discussion 2, I'm asking you to watch the video that I've put in this week's video from Marcus Buckingham, who, by the way, is one of my favorite writers and speakers today, that talks about strength-based thinking. And so it's really the whole thought of operating in your strengths. There's a book written called Strength Finders 2.0. It's by Tom Rath. It's like $9 at Amazon. I would encourage you, if you haven't read this and taken the Strength Finders assessment that I would ask you to do that. Because what it will do is it will take same type of thing with the critical thinking, except it's much deeper. You'll go across and answer a bunch of questions, and it will give you your top 5 strengths. Mine happen to be strategic, futuristic, achiever, competitive, and relator. On the bottom for me, empathy. Sorry, just kind of who I am. But what it talks about is how to operate in your strengths. And critical thinking, strategic thinking, all of these things give you an opportunity to operate within your strengths. So I ask you to make some comments about what you see on that video from Marcus Buckingham. And then the application exercise goes back to Amina's story this week. And I'm asking you to take six of the top people in the story and have you give me what their critical thinking style is. And so there are a few other questions that I ask you to answer as part of that. If you're reading through the Now You're Thinking book, this is a big hint for you. It actually gives you what the critical thinking styles are of the key people in that story. So I give this hint, and if you don't watch the video, you won't get it. But then it's in like chapter 2 or 3 or something of the book Now You're Thinking. So I'm asking you to do that, to apply it. And again, the application here is that it takes multiple thinking styles working together as a unit to be able to solve problems. Okay? So that is lesson 2. You have 2 discussion boards and an application. Again, I encourage you to use the video examples that I have in the new student section to go forward. I will be accessible this week, so if you have questions or comments, make sure that you do that. And in the meantime, study hard, have a great week, and I'll chat with you soon. Thanks.